So this is a channeled message. It's a collective love message. We are asking to receive a collective love message. Okay, collective love message. What is this collective love message that wants to come through? Collective love message that wants to come through. Message for the collective regarding love that wants to come through. We have King of Cups, Knight of Wands, Five of Pentacles, and the Chariot. Okay, so immediately, I'm kind of feeling this as, okay, first of all, let's kind of go over what each of these cards mean, right? And then we'll put it all together. But I already feel pretty clear about the message that wants to come through. So the King of Cups, kings are an archetype, right? The court cards in the tarot represent archetypes. And actually all of the cards in the tarot represent archetypal energies. But the court cards represent archetypal people, okay? And so there is the masculine expression of an energy, and then there's the feminine expression of an energy, okay? So that would be the King or the Queen of Cups. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's man or woman, okay? It means feminine or masculine, and that's very different. We may be a woman, but we have, or you may be a woman, but you have both masculine and feminine qualities within you. You may be a man, but you have both masculine and feminine qualities within you, okay? So when we look at the Court Cups, we're looking more at a masculine expression of the energy of cups, okay? And so and it also like usually relates to a person. It usually indicates or signifies a particular type of person. So this particular type of person, the King of Cups, is somebody who has really had to come to some level of maturity around, and I'm just going to say his, but it could also be her, around his emotions, right? So the King of Cups is, he's kind of like, the energy that I get from him, especially right now, is that he's really had to find this emotional maturity through the ability to first recognize his emotions, recognize what he's feeling, what is coming up within him as an emotion. And then once recognizing it, he has then had to allow it to take its space, allow himself to feel its presence, right? So a lot of times, especially like the older generations, my generation and above probably, boys were not encouraged to feel their feelings. They were actually encouraged to suppress their emotions. Like of my generation, boys were told, and my father's generation, my parents' generation, boys were told, oh, if you cry, you're acting like a girl, right? And so, these boys were looking, they knew that they were boys, they knew they weren't girls, and so they were looking for a way to define their masculinity, and they were being taught that their masculinity was defined basically by not showing emotion, right? Or if they wanted to show emotion, the accepted emotions were typically like anger. Yeah. So it's basically like there was happy and there was angry for men a lot of times, right? In this particular generation. And so I think this is something that kind of exists still in the zeitgeist. It's still a present energy. And it's something that needs to really be moved through, be worked through. Okay, so more conscious parenting, right? And it was due to a lack of consciousness and a lack of knowledge and whatnot. But more conscious parenting is really understanding that every emotion, every feeling is valid, and then working through those emotions to understand why they're coming up within you, right? Or sometimes even to understand that a lot of times a lot of emotions are secondary or tertiary, right? Meaning they're not really the original feeling. They're like a second or third feeling that is actually kind of masking um, the core feeling, right? So a lot of times, like, so anger might be a result of frustration, which might be a result of feeling like you're not valued, right? So somebody disregards, we're in a business meeting and I have something to say, and I say it and it's just brushed over as if I didn't even say it. And to me, that feels frustrating because I don't feel like I'm being heard, and then I get angry about it. Oops, sorry about that. Shaking. And so it's like, so this anger at this point is a very, a tertiary emotion. There are other underlying feelings, or that have resulted in this feeling of anger. Okay, so the King of Cups is somebody who's like really understands that process, has really gone through this process of recognizing what they're actually feeling, allowing themselves to feel it, and then identifying that feeling, and then maybe spending a little bit of time there but not staying there, like also being able to move out of it and move on, so that this emotion is no longer control, is not controlling action, is not controlling any other aspect. It's just taking in the emotion as information as to what a particular situation might be saying to them. Okay, so that's really like the King of Cups vibe. Like he has all of this very wavy up and down, a little bit chaotic, movement in the water, right, in the emotion, but he's solid on his like cement looking throne. He's sitting there solid, so he's not affected by these waves of emotion. He recognizes them, he can feel their weight, but he's not controlled by them. Okay. And then the Knight of Wands, like in the tarot, typically the Knight of Wands are like messengers, but they also can indicate like movement. And then when you look at the element of fire and the Suit of Wands, it's like, movement towards something passionate, or, a passionate message that wants to be communicated. And so that's what the Knight of Wands is, right? And they're kind of like on their way to, there's like a progression, right? The pages are more childlike. Then you move into the Knights, and then it's into the King and Queens, and then into the Empress and Emperor. Okay. So now we are looking at a reading with the theme of love, right? Like what's important for us to know as the collective around love. So the Five of Pentacles is my abandonment card. This is, to me, this is the card of abandonment. And I say that because some really big themes around love come from unresolved issues around rejection and abandonment. Okay. And these are issues that are very likely learned as children from our parents, or in early relationships that we might have, and then we build up this learning in regards to these relationships, and they create patterns, and then we continue these patterns, we cycle through these patterns, we do them over and over and over again. Okay. And then when conscious awareness comes in, when we expand our consciousness, we begin to realize that we're operating under all of these subconscious patterning. We're not making conscious decisions about things. We're operating in the subconscious, in the automatic. And then once we realize that, we can make changes to those patterns. Okay, we can recognize them, just like the King of Cups emotions. You can recognize them, and then you can start to make changes to them. Okay, so the Five of Pentacles is a card of being left out in the cold, right? But there's also like this church here. The lights are on, it's warm inside, and the church welcomes everyone. The church will welcome everyone inside, right? It doesn't, supposedly, doesn't discriminate, right? Of who they allow to come in. And so these two people here, they're out in the cold, they're hurt, they're cold, they're hungry, but they're not recognizing that there's an opportunity here for them to go inside and get warm, because it's like they're operating in this poverty consciousness, this abandonment consciousness, this rejection consciousness, So, okay, so that's what that is. And when you talk about this rejection and abandonment pattern being instilled in us in a very young age, that oftentimes, it's not for everyone, right? But that oftentimes will come from like an absent or avoidant parent, right? So, so you could have a parent who, of them, you know where to find them, but basically they took off and never really made the effort to be a parent, right? They kind of just let it fall on the other parent. Like you know that's your parent, they're there, but they're somewhere else, and they pretty much act like they just really don't give a shit about you, right? So it could be something like that. Or it could be you are in the household with this person, and they never accept you for who you are, right? Like you're always like a disappointment to them, or at least this is how you feel. This is how you internalize these things, right? Like your parent turns your back on you. They never accept you for who you are. You're not good enough. That kind of thing. So these can build up these patterns of, especially when we're younger and we don't have, a conscious parent to help us process all of these things. We build up these walls of people reject who I am, right? Or people leave, they abandon me, right? And so when you develop these patterns of thinking and they're in your subconscious and you're not completely aware of them, what happens is that you enter into new relationships, and that thinking, that belief that is present, that hasn't been processed and resolved, is still there. And so then you start operating in this pattern of, oh, my partner is ultimately going to leave me, or my partner ultimately doesn't see me and rejects me, and this and that, right? And so you kind of like create these patterns of cycling through relationships where you create situations, right, unconsciously, where people leave or people reject you, people don't see you. And this is partially your perception of what is happening, but it is also partially creating those environments and those contexts where those things happen, so that not just so that you can kind of like confirm that subconscious belief, subconsciously confirm that subconscious belief. Gets complicated, right? But, you know, it just kind of, it's like sometimes it's also just all you know. Like you don't really know another way. And then if you're not conscious of it, that it's even happening, like if you do know another way, how do you even implement it? Because you don't even know what's going on, right? Okay, so that may have been a lot. So putting this all of together. Okay, also the chariot is very much about, he is divinely guided. He has all of these stars above his head. So he's got like the universe backing him. And the chariot is also a movement card of like very moving forward in a very balanced and divine way, right? There's also like the angel wings here that are kind of protecting. And then the sphinx are the black and white sphinx, which kind of represent the balance. Okay, so putting it all together, the message regarding love is that if you are chasing, if you're chasing after someone without recognizing the patterns that are creating that chase, it's not gonna work. Okay, so if you really want to have this mature type of love where, emotions are communicated honestly, where emotions are expressed honestly, which is a form of vulnerability, right? And vulnerability builds connection. If you want to have deep connection with someone, if you want to have a deep relationship with someone, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. And that means that you have to be willing to feel your emotions and express your emotions authentically in a very mature way that shows that you are feeling these things, but you're not letting these things control you. Okay, and this is really communicating this chase that happens. Okay, when you are in a pattern of rejection and abandonment, what happens is that you turn into the chaser. Like you think that, like you get into this pattern of like, this person is always rejecting, and so you need to chase them, right? You're chasing this love. And so so part of that is also very much like a self-love that very much needs to develop, along with a recognition of these patterns that you're engaging in. Okay, so in order to break this pattern of abandonment and rejection, it's really, really important to develop this self-value, this self-worth, and this self-love. Because ultimately, a fear of rejection is ultimately, a fear that you can't be accepted as you are, for who you are, and who you are, because who you are is not good enough, right? But it is good enough. It's just that sometimes, you come across people who just don't understand you, and may kind of give you feedback that you're not good enough, but you really are. Ultimately, every single one of us is good enough, and we have to build that up within ourselves so that we understand it on a very deep level, right? We all came into this world created of the divine, and that divine doesn't leave us. It continues with us. It stays with us throughout eternity. We are an extension of the divine, and that is our birthright. Okay, nobody can take that away from you. And so it's very important to recognize that within yourself, and that will help, and recognize this pattern of rejection and abandonment, and that will help you break the pattern. Okay, that will help you bring you to a place where you're not chasing somebody else's love, because you are very much in love with yourself, and you know, and that's not in a bad way, right? Not in a vain or egotistic way. It is, you know that you are worthy of love, and so you love yourself, right? And you know that if somebody it wants to run away from you, then you just let them go, because they're just not a match for you. If they don't see your value, then they're not the right person to have around with you in the first place. Okay, so these are kind of like these core issues, right? They're here, they're in the center. Core issues. This is big for a lot of people. And so, and this is the surrounding energy. And when you can settle these core issues, move them out, you know, then this is what you've got. You've got this very mature, grounded, emotionally mature, ability to be vulnerable, ability to establish true and authentic and deep and meaningful connection with others. And that is going to move you forward in the most remarkable way in regards to love. Like you know, resolve these issues here, become the King of Cups, become this archetype here, you know, and you'll see that when it comes to love, your divine partner will show up just like that, like seriously. And the two of you will move forward in a way that that you never imagined was possible. Because if you're in this energy of the King of Cups, you're not going to tolerate anything less, right? So there may be lesser things that come your way, but because you're in this energy of the King of Cups, you recognize those things as, no, thank you. That's not for me. No, thank you. Right? And so then, because you're also vibrating in this energy and you're sending out this frequency, right, of this energy, you're also pulling things in that are in alignment with that. And so what you're doing is you're attracting a partner that is vibrating in that same energy. And when the two of you get together in this energy, you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable. Like everything just really falls into place, you know? I mean, of course you still have to work on things, right? Like there's always going to be things that come up, but because you love yourself and respect yourself and you know your own worth, you're not going to be chasing, you're going to be communicating, you know? So, okay. So that's the message for love right now that wants to come through. Yeah, you know, we all deserve this, you know, beautiful love and wonderful partnership, because, you know, because it's what we came into the world with this divinity, this wholeness, right? And then it's just all of the stuff that gets piled on top of us that we start to build up these subconscious patterns that are not healthy. We start to build up these walls. We start to build up these unhealthy beliefs. And we kind of got to sort through all of that stuff and get back down to the core of our beingness, which is love, and which is our divinity in that love, you know? So, okay. I'm going to stop there, but yeah, I'm wishing you all the best. I mean, like, let's create more love in the world. Let's create more, you know, conscious awareness, because it's contagious too. So, all right, I'm going to stop there, but I'm excited. I could go on and on and on, but wishing you all the best. Love you lots. Aloha.